Alright, so welcome back into another Dragon Ball Super card game video. This one is of course the thing that's right in front of you, which is set 11 Xeno Super Saiyan 4 Goku. And as you can tell by the title, it is kind of an alternative to Vegeks, and if something happens to Vegeks, this is probably the next deck that people will be using. Before we get into that, before I get into the breakdown as well as the deck in itself, which of course I'm sure someone's going to skip through it and ask me a question in the comments below that I've already answered in the video, just watch the whole video. That's probably a little bit easier, right? Definitely subscribe if you are new. I know that was a little shady. Subscribe if you're new, if you haven't been already. We're almost to 5,000. And if you've been watching and clicking on the homepage or whatever it may be, and not yet subscribed, like the smallest percentage of people here, definitely help me out. I'll do something a little bit special at 5,000. I don't know what it is just yet, but it is a pretty big number, and I would greatly appreciate if you did do that for me right now. As the first thing that we want to go through is, of course, the leader. He is pretty simple. When you swing, you burst 3, and you get to take up to 1 card from your life and then draw 1 card. So obviously he has built-in self-awakening, which is always so nice, and the option to actually take a life is pretty awesome as well. We saw it in Gotenks, the yellow Gotenks leader, and now we see it in a black leader for probably one of the first times we've seen it, or the first time ever, I would say. And of course, when you have 4 or less life, there's no other condition. You just untap and draw 1. It is pretty nice. Like not having the untap 2, or at least having the option to just drawing 1 and untapping 1 is always nice. Just having the versatility, just to see another card, and untapping 1 is just really good in general. And of course, the backside is just double strike as a permanent. As soon as you awaken, you basically swing, you take the life, you burst the 3, you draw the 1 card, you awaken, and now he has a double strike. And if you have every 8 black battle cards in your warp, gain 5k as a permanent as well. So basically when you awaken, you automatically get that permanent, and you automatically get that power boost afterwards, which is also very, very good if you really want to make this as an aggressive deck. And at first, I did have, which I'll actually include in the link below, or in the description below, I'll include a link of my first draft of the deck that I played in the match versus Frank Miller and his Majin Vegeta. For that deck, I originally, catered towards the double strike on the backside, and as well as black cards in the warp, and just being overall aggressive with a lot of double strikers. But for this version, and as well as just, making it as busted as possible, is basically like, is this a good alternative to Vegeks? That's really the question set to kind of answer. And finally, for the activate main, you place up to 4 black battle cards in your warp to the drop area and then draw 1, which is really good for overwhelm. It's just good overall, just so you can go ahead and draw 1 without interacting with your opponent. And the only downside is that if you do place, you can do 0, of course, or 1, or 1 to 4 basically, or 0 to 4 basically. The only downside is that you can lose that 5k boost. And I will say, for this backside effect, you really only get 25k on your turn, probably turn 3 or later. Like, you have to really burst out a lot of different things, and it has to be black battle cards. It can't be the IR that we play, it can't be power bursts, etc. So that's something that you have to kind of watch out for. And now, as we look into the cards that we have here, or that we have in front of us, is basically the core engine. It's pretty much the same thing as Vegeks, and I know, like, if you, again, this is why I put 2 different deck lists, the one that's in here and the one that's linked in the description below. You can try both. This one in itself is basically playing all the busted things that make Vegeks busted, and honestly, it makes this leader, and as well as other black Saiyan leaders, busted as well. We have, the free unison that you can pitch a card and get +2 and a 15k attacker. You have the basically the super combo in your hand that you can play for free. Or you can, get 10k power for free, basically. And then we also have the 19k attacker that can remove something that's 3 or less. We also have the Time Agent Trunks, which is really good in this deck because you can awaken pretty early by taking a life and block, and then do it again on the following turn. And then we also have, other than the IR, which is really good just against a lot of decks that play things from the drop and just getting more things into your drop. And as well as when you do awaken, you can go ahead and keep that boost. So you basically swing, burst to 3, play out things for free, take a life, go down to 4, pay 1 energy for this guy, boost him up to 15k, awaken, and then go for that double strike right after. And that's usually what you want to do when it comes to that awakening turn. Then we also have the Trunks Elite Descendant, which is usually a turn 1 play. If you swing, burst, and you end up having 3 in the drop, or if you don't play anything, you can go ahead and just pay the 1, get the Reluctant Reinforcements, burst the 5 again, and then set up for your Black Mass Saiyan Splintering Mind. And I had a lot of different things. If you didn't check out my video before when I was playing in Daylands, I took out this engine just simply because it just didn't feel good. And I kind of understood that this, for 1, 2, yeah, basically 2 energy, you get a lot of stuff. You get removal, you get a 15k attacker, you get a 20k attacker, and you get basically a guaranteed life out of their life. You warp a life after you take 2, and that is a lot. And not to mention the top 5 or the mill 5. Like, not playing this engine is really just a deterrent or something that you're really making a negative. You're pushing something that shouldn't be pushed, and I think you know, you have to come to realize that you should play good cards into your deck. And again, you can refer back to my other list if you don't want to play this engine or if it's too expensive for you. Anyway, the Black Mass Saiyan or the Splitting Mind actually does warp a card, and again, warps an energy. The Reluctant Reinforcements is really good, so that way you can burst more, which in this deck you're kind of supplementing, which I'll talk about in a little bit, the fact that you don't mill 5 every single turn. You mill only 3, and you draw 1, and you take a life, and the backside doesn't mill at all. So the IAR, and as well as the Vegeta Reluctant Reinforcements, really has to help you out in milling more things for Overrealm, and as well as getting more things into your drop. And as we move into the supporting tech as well, I'm kind of blocking this, so let me take myself away yet again. We do have the Majin Buu Wickedness Incarnate, in which you pay 1, and at the end of the turn you pitch a card, or pitch a black card from your hand, and you draw 2 cards at the end of the turn. Only if your energy is all black, and if your leader card is black, which of course we're going to be doing both, right? And the cool thing about this is that since your leader does return cards from your warp into your drop, you can basically loop this as long as you have 1 into your warp, basically, or your drop, either one really. So you basically want to do this around turn 2 or 3, depending on how your hand looks, and you can kind of clean up your hand from there. And of course we play the Hidden Power Supreme Kai, which is just good. Originally I was playing the Frieza, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but the double strike from any card, including the Revive Ravager, including any like even your leader if you're unawakened, any of the free plays, or even like the 19k Vegeta, those are all really good targets for that. And again, speaking of Vegeta, this one is a critical. You overrun for 3, which again, most of the time you're gonna have 3 in your drop because of the leader itself. Especially if you don't play anything for free. And then you get to mill 3 again. So this is another supplemental thing where you're not playing Vegeks and you're just milling out more cards and just making it a little bit better for yourself. And then we also have Super Saiyan 3 Son Goku, which originally, you know, this is kind of the focus, or the original focus of the deck before, but it was a little hard to get 6 Overrealm every single turn, or at least trying to get it consistently without being awakened. And I guess that one swing with the leader, and as well as maybe the IAR from there, is a little better. But this is really good just as a free critical double strike, just taking them down from 4 to 2 with this card, along with your super combos, along with anything else that's in your hand, including the 1-drop Kais, and then swinging with leader or with E Supreme Kai afterwards is really, really good. And I think this is just a super good supporting card, and I think you should really consider to play that card in really any black deck that bursts. Then we have the Vegeks line here, which of course you can play these guys in your warp, or using your warp in order to use Union Potara, adding a battle card for 4 or less in your hand, which is usually going to be a super combo, and then you get a Union or Xeno Evolve for free for a 30k double striker that warps a card on their field. The reason why we play, like, these guys are really good. You play 2 of each guy, and that's pretty much all you really need. But the reason why we play this guy is that I've undervalued this card, and shout out to Marquise McKinney when I was playing in the Dayland 1K. But this guy is really good. The fact that you can you can pay only 3 for a barrier 24k, which unfortunately doesn't have deflect, but it's still really good, in which going against blue decks, going against really a lot of different decks that don't put out anything more than 15k generally is really good. Not only that, you have a free blocker with Time Agent Trunks, and then all the combo power that you have in general, but because this guy says that any of the opponent's battle cards, as long as this guy is in rest mode, with 15k power or more can only attack this card, basically every single time they swing with a leader, they have to swing to this card and then combo out at least 2 cards, because now one card of course only gets to 20 and then he's still 24, and then any other swing they basically have to commit a lot of other cards or other resources in order to kill it, and they have to have something that ignores barrier, or have something like a mirror, you know, 7-drop mirror swinging at it with a lot of attack power. So I mean, this card is really good. Again, I undervalue it quite a lot, and I'm really surprised that these guys are cheap, but that's neither here nor there. And then lastly is the remaining stuff. The secret rare of choice is Black Smoke Dragon, which your leader can help you get to that 12 in drop. And honestly, it's just really versatile. I don't think there's really a better secret rare. The last secret rare hasn't really been revealed. We've seen the Broly secret rare, and as well as the Vegito secret rare, which both of them aren't really that great coming out instead of 11 for this deck, that is. And I think the last one is going to be Baby, which is blue. So I don't think that's really going to be all that great for this deck either. So I think Black Smoke is going to be the best thing to close out games and just give you that versatility that you need. Secret Identity is really good for tokens and just removal. You do have removal with the Splittering Mind and a couple other things, but really Secret Identity is just there because you get 4 into the drop and get immediately overwhelmed afterwards, on average more often than not. And then the last thing is the super combo choice, which this one has to be all black energy, which you're going to be doing as well, and 4 or less, which you're going to be at pretty quickly. You place 1 card from the bottom of the deck, which is usually going to be a Unison or one of the things that you mill out, like the Vegeta or the Trunks, and then you draw 2 cards. The reason why we're not playing Bibbidi is because, one, I don't think Bibbidi is as good as it could be in this deck, in my opinion, because these guys are going to be more alive than the other. The Bibbidi is not going to have that much use because you're not going to be milling out as much as you would for the Vegeks leader. And the other thing is that it is on the hit list, and I honestly think future-proofing it with this card is going to be a little bit better as well. Now, the considerations, I like these cards, I like all of them, but going through them pretty quick, paying 3 for this guy and warping 2 is pretty solid, but I think if you have the Vegeks line, I think it's going to be a little bit better playing that instead. If you play this on turn 4, it is probably and I think it is, I wouldn't say devastating, but definitely going to be something that they have to deal with for a 30k attacker, and then all the other stuff that's on your board plus your leader. And the warping 2 cards, because you get to choose them, is really good as well. This guy is good as a sideboard card. I don't think is really something that needs to be main boarded. Nah, I could be wrong with that. These 2 are cool, I think, because you get to overwhelm a good amount of times. You have a good amount of overwhelm in your deck, and then basically getting 2 markers every single turn by placing up to 2 and helping overwhelm. And then for the -3, being a 20k dual attacker is not bad, but I think the free Unison that we play already is probably just as good. And then we have the Vegeta. Originally, this was originally in the build. It was more of like a control-based deck, and helping you awaken earlier is really nice. But again, just not really great in testing, in my opinion. Didn't do as much as I wanted to. I wanted to attack more than often than not, and just waiting for that 4 energy warp alive play wasn't that great when you're a 5k body. Which again, the 2 markers is not bad. 2 energy to warp something and draw a card knowing barrier is really good. I think it's more of a sideboard card in my opinion. It can easily get counterplayed, but at least it's pretty cheap. And then we also have Haru Haru, again originally in my build, but because it's only during your turn, it's and honestly you can play like Black Mass Saiyan, which gives you a little bit more, and just a little bit more versatility. I think it's still a good card. I think this is a really good card to consider. And we also have Rebellion Hammer as a 1 cost that prevents a 4 drop from being played and placed into a drop. I think if you have the black cards, like it's only black cards in the drop, I mean, it didn't really feel that great. Again, it's more of a sideboard card. And then Frieza, I think I would want to remain if I was playing more of a double strike type of deck overall. And I think this is really good for the leader, but overall, like, it's whatever. That's just how I feel. I know that doesn't really help you too much, but that's just how I feel. And then now we're looking at the full list. The pros when it comes to this is that you have a lot of free real estate, a lot of free cards, stuff like that. And the awakening turn, and as well as the self-awakening I talked about earlier, as well, just flipping into a boosted leader that has a double strike is really cool. The black Saiyan support is awesome with the free stuff, and as well as the things that you need all black energy for. I already talked about the double strike when awakening, and then drawing without attacking is really nice. And then overwhelm is also just a plus in this deck. It feels pretty neg in Vegeks because you are milling yourself out and then overwhelming and not being able to get that back when you actually do mill yourself out. So you're just kind of putting on yourself on a timetable if the person is a little, you know, delaying a little bit more and defending a little bit better than you expect, right? And I think personally in my playstyle, this deck fits me more than Vegeks in the things that I kind of want to do, and that's attacking, and that's establishing board and kind of ending the game a little bit more quickly and having options throughout that. And I think Vegeks does have that, but I don't know. I think having this guy as an alternative is really nice, and until we have a ban list and a rata list for the next set, I'm kind of holding my tongue for Vegeks right now. And then cons is supplementing the burst 5. Like honestly, having a revive Ravager, the IAR, 3-drop Vegeta, things like that, you kind of have to supplement the bursting 5, and just only bursting 3 is not as good. No Bibbidi is probably okay, I talked about that already, and it's just not Vegeks, so there you go. Lastly, let me know what you think about the deck and just the future of set 11. Do you think this is a good set? Do you think the format will develop before we even get a chance to even see it? How do you feel about it? Do you want more decks? What decks do you want to see? Etc. And other than that, I'll see you in the next one.